Imagine waking up one morning, expecting life to go on as usual, only to realize that somebody you love is just gone. No goodbyes, no messages, no sign, just poof, up and gone like smoke in the breeze. That was the harsh reality for the family of Donna-Lee Donaldson on July 11th, 2022. You see, what started as a missing persons case quickly spiraled into one of the most frightening murder investigations Jamaica has ever seen. This wasn't just another headline. This was a case that had the whole country talking. And trust me, it had everything: love, betrayal, cover ups, forensic evidence, and a desperate fight for justice. In this episode of Watson's World, we'll take you deep into the mystery surrounding Donna-Lee's disappearance. The 24-year-old social media star whose case shook the island to its core. Because in a place like Jamaica, where everybody knows everybody, how can somebody just disappear like that?
What you have to say for yourself?
What's for dinner?
What's going on here?
What's that stink?
What's this for?
What time is it? What's that?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I'm your host, Kevin Watson, and my co-host is none other than my daughter.
Kevin Watson.
Big up yourself.
Thank you, thank
You know,
you.
Kevina, this case is a doozy.
It is. It is.
I was so touched by this case. I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen a case like this one.
Yeah.
The Donna-Lee Donaldson.
My heart really goes out to the mother and, the rest of Donna-Lee's family.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, man.
No, it was July 2022, the day after Donna-Lee Donaldson's 24th birthday. She should have been out celebrating life, making new memories, setting even bigger dreams. Instead, that night would be the last time anyone saw her alive. But before we get into that, let's talk about who Donna-Lee was. Because Donna-Lee Donaldson wasn't just another face on social media. She was unstoppable. Born and raised in Jamaica, Donna-Lee had that magnetic energy, the kind that could light up a room the moment she walked in. She was bold, vibrant, full of life, a true trendsetter, as most Jamaican would say. Whether online or in person, she naturally drew attention. Jamaica first got to really know her as the cast member of the reality TV show 876 Roommates, a show that put her lively, fun-loving personality on full display. But Donna-Lee was more than just a reality TV star. She was a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. She had her own lingerie brand, The Journey, and she was all about female empowerment. Even launching a movement called Boo to Boss to help women take control of their futures. She wasn't just about looking good online. She wanted to really make a difference. Her friends and family describe her as kind-hearted, ambitious, and just full of energy. She was the glue of her family, always looking out for her mother, Sophia Lug, making sure she had everything she needed. Now, of course, Donna-Lee's star was rising and her future looked limitless. But as bright as her life was, there was one part of it that wasn't as glamorous: her relationship with Constable Noel Maitland. You see, Donna-Lee and Noel Maitland had been together for about 2 to 3 years, but this wasn't some fairy tale romance. It was messy, complicated, and filled with whispers of betrayal. I'm talking about a love triangle. Because there was another woman in the picture, Catherine Simmet, a fellow police officer and the mother of Maitland's child. Donna-Lee and Kathy had clashed before, big time. We're talking about heated arguments, tense confrontations, the kind of mix up, the kind of drama that kept people chatting. Everyone knew this wasn't some smooth sailing love story. Now, despite everything, Donna-Lee went to Maitland's Chelsea Manor apartment in New Kingston that night. But here's the thing, she never came out. What happened inside that apartment?
No, Daddy, but 806 roommates, like, have you ever watched the show?
No, I've heard about it. I think it started in 2021
Yeah.
where I was living in Canada at that time, and
I mean,
yeah,
the show, it was like a highlight for me
yeah.
growing up. I think I was around 13, 14 at the time. It was about laughs, pranks, real life moments. The host, especially Donna-Lee, really stood out to me. She was
Yep.
brilliant. She was funny, but what I loved most about her was, how close she was with her mom.
Yeah.
You could see that she was really protective of her mom. And, it just made me think about how strong the bond is with a mother and a daughter. It's
Yeah.
also, very inspiring to see someone so real on TV, balancing, life with the show and still staying true to her family.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree. No, the morning of July 12, 2022 seemed like any other day. Except it wasn't. Because Donna-Lee Donaldson never came home. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She made one final call to her mother, Sophia Lugg, asking her to feed her dog because she wasn't home yet. Unusual? Yes, because based on what people have said, she loved that little dog and she would always try to be home to feed her dog herself. But maybe she was just running late. Then she FaceTimed her brother, and that's when things felt off. She didn't look well. Her voice was different, weaker, off balance. She told her brother she was feeling sick, something that stuck with him. It was a quick call, too quick. And then nothing. Her phone went silent. No calls, no messages, no activity. By July 13th, her mother Sophia began to panic. She called. Guess what? It went straight to voicemail. No response. And that's when she knew something was terribly wrong. It's like that motherly instinct. It's like your gut feeling is saying something is just not right.
Yeah.
And that was what happened to Sophia that day. So, of course, she reported her daughter missing. I don't know if the police took it quite very serious. Like, they perhaps were like, yeah, she'll turn up at some point.
Yeah, I actually believe that the reporting that the police had sent out at first was incorrect because they said that Donna-Lee had left at 5 p.m. with her mother when that was never the case. Now, that raises significant concerns about the accuracy and integrity of the investigation itself.
Yeah, well, it could be that the police was trying to brush this off as like, yeah, she'll turn up at some point.
Yeah.
Or she left with her mother, so there's no need to do any investigation
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, there was a lack of urgency through the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, here's where things get strange. While Donna-Lee's family was spiraling into panic, Noel Maitland, her boyfriend, and the last person to see her was shockingly calm. No urgency, no distress. Instead, he made a curious phone call. He called Sophia, Donna-Lee's mother, and asked, "Did Donna-Lee come home?" I can't reach her. Now, think about that for a second. Her own mother hadn't heard from her. Her phone was off, and instead of sounding worried, Maitland was setting the stage, as if he was trying to make it seem like she had just walked away from his apartment. Then came his explanation. We had a fight. She left. And that was it. That's all he said. But if that was true, why was her phone off? Why wasn't she answering her text? And why did CCTV footage show her entering his apartment but never leaving? And that we'll get into that CCTV footage a little later on. No, the pieces weren't adding up. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. This was the beginning of a nightmare, especially for her family.
Yeah, so I think it's extremely peculiar for a man whose partner has gone missing to become so calm and distant.
Yeah.
It's as if he already knew that she'd never be found.
Mm.
And on top of showing no effort whatsoever, right, it's alleged that Noel lied to Donna-Lee's mother, a woman who probably cooked for him, treated him as if he were her own son.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is said that Noel told Donna-Lee's mother that Donna-Lee's father had called her at 1 p.m. to pick up some birthday money from MoneyGram, as her birthday was, recently, at 1 p.m., which should be long after she left Noel's apartment at 11 a.m. on July 12. Now, is this the behavior of an innocent man?
Good question. Now, as investigators dug deeper into Donna-Lee's disappearance, they followed the only trail they had, her last known location. And all signs pointed to one place. Guess where? Noel Maitland's apartment. Now, of course, forensic teams arrived at Chelsea Manor searching for any signs of Donna-Lee, any clue about what had happened behind those walls. And then they found it. Blood. Not just one small stain, but multiple spots, and not just anywhere, in places that shouldn't have been stained at all. Blood on the curtains, blood on a pair of sneakers. But here's where things get even more alarming. It wasn't just what they found, it was what they didn't find. Inside the living room, where the blood splatter pattern suggested a struggle, something was missing. A conspicuous empty space, as if something large had been removed. The kind of space where a couch should have been. Investigators started asking questions. Where was this couch? Why wasn't it in the apartment? They searched every corner of Chelsea Manor, but the couch was gone. And here's the thing. This wasn't just a piece of furniture anymore. This was the missing piece in this puzzle. At the same time, forensic teams tested the blood samples, those blood samples that they lifted from the curtains and the sneakers. If Maitland had any hope that the stains belonged to someone else, those hopes were shattered. DNA results came back and they confirmed the unthinkable. The blood belonged to Donna-Lee Donaldson. Suddenly, this was no longer a case of a missing person. This was a crime scene, and Donna-Lee's body was nowhere to be found. But detectives had a hunch. The couch, wherever it was the key to what really happened in that apartment. And when they finally traced it, what they found was even worse than they imagined.
No, it was alleged that on the day that Donna-Lee was said to have gone missing, right, neighbors heard signs of altercation, breaking of glasses, raised voices, chaos, and I'm speculating even gunshots. Yet no one went outside of their apartment to see what happened or even called the police. And this is what is so troubling about this case because I believe in the idea that if you hear something, say something. I don't understand why Jamaicans
Yeah.
have the
No, it's
notion.
a culture.
Yeah,
No, it's like hear no evil, see no evil. You say things, you mind your own business.
yeah, in form
You know,
of dead. Like I don't get it.
right? And you basically you look at domestic dispute as something normal.
Exactly.
Make the people them work out them own thing,
Yeah,
right? So nobody don't really care. Yeah, man. For them business that.
it's sad, man.
So whatever happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I believe a police call would have made all the difference.
right. But do you think that the police would have made it there? Like they would have gone there,
I don't-
especially because Maitland was a police officer.
Yeah, probably not. I don't feel like the police take domestic violence seriously.
Yeah.
So
Well, no, they're doing that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think they are stepping up the effort
yeah,
and making sure that they take domestic violence seriously. But I said that because Maitland is a police officer, so I imagine it's their colleague, right? So
yeah.
anyway,
Right.
just when it seemed like this case couldn't get any more disturbing, a key piece of evidence surfaced. The coach. The same coach that had been soaked in blood, the one that employees at the car wash would never forget. But how did it get there? And more importantly, where is it now? Because according to police reports, Noel Maitland didn't just wake up one day and decided to get rid of his coach. This was carefully planned. Investigators tracked down a truck driver who revealed that he had been hired by Noel Maitland to move the coach out of his apartment. No, this wasn't just a random favor. Maitland, a police officer, made sure to time everything perfectly, moving quickly and methodically. He knew he had one shot to erase the most damning piece of evidence in this case. The driver followed Maitland's instructions, transporting the blood-soaked couch to a car wash on Lindros Road, about 5 to 8 minutes from his Chelsea Manor apartment there in New Kingston, Jamaica. And that's where a female attendant noticed something horrific. She later recalled a whole heap of blood coming out of the right side. Jesus, this man must dead. That's her exact word. Like when she saw that blood, she said, my God, whoever bled out on this couch must be dead. I imagine the thick, dark stains seeping into the ground as the water ran over the couch. The smell of blood, heavy, metallic, filling the air. This wasn't a small cut. This was a massive blood loss. The kind that suggested only one thing: a fatal wound. And yet, Noel Maitland remained calm. He gave the attendant a casual excuse. My cousin cut him hand and bleed out on it. But think about it. Who moves an entire couch over a small hand injury? Who takes it to a car wash as if that would remove what was already soaked into the fabric? And then who gets rid of it entirely the very next day? Because that's exactly what happened. By the time the police followed the trail, the couch had vanished. It was dumped somewhere in downtown Kingston, and to this day, it has never been recovered. But here's the real question. If the couch was just a piece of furniture, why go through so much trouble to make sure it was never found? Because it wasn't just a couch. It was evidence of murder. You see, the forensic team knew it, the public knew it, and Noel Maitland knew it. And that's why he made sure it disappeared.
I think the missing coach is the most chilling aspect about all of this because it just reveals that, more people were involved in this case than we initially thought because surely Noel could not have moved that coach by himself to the truck.
Yes.
The real question is now who assisted him in doing that.
Yes.
Now, it is alleged that on the day that Donna-Lee was said to have gone missing, that two female officers, entered Noel's apartment. Now, these two female officers were, the baby mother, Catherine Smith,
Yes.
and another individual. However, only the baby mother was interviewed,
Right.
right? We don't know nothing about the next person.
Yes.
So, my question is how could such a significant, piece of evidence
Mm-hmm.
be overlooked in this investigation?
Right. Or witness. Yeah. Because
Exactly.
if there was a second person
Yeah.
or a third person.
Mm.
So Noel's baby mother and a third person
Yeah.
there. Right.
And then you have people who come out and say, oh, Noel never do nothing at a baby mother.
Yes.
But if that were the case, why would he go to such lengths to cover up a crime that he did not commit or was not involved in?
Right. Well, I mean, he's liable. Even if let's play his game and say that, the baby mother did it. Right? It was done in his apartment.
Precisely.
Right.
So that just makes him
And
an
he
accomplice to murder.
Right. Now, the discovery of blood evidence and the shocking revelations about the bloody couch were damning. But there was still one thing missing. Donna-Lee herself. Despite everything, the forensics, the CCTV footage, the failed attempts to cover it up, police had not found her body. And for her family, that meant no closure. Her mother, Sophia Lugg, had already endured unimaginable pain. The not knowing, the unanswered calls, the lies, and now with investigators confirming her daughter was likely dead, all she wanted was to bring her home. The public wanted answers too. I remember this situation. People getting out there on the street. They believed that answers weren't coming fast enough. So persons took to the streets, right? It's one of those moments where, I looked at Jamaica and I was so proud to see people protesting, coming together. Halfway through Kingston, Emancipation Park, these weren't just locations anymore. They were rallying points for thousands of outraged Jamaicans. Donna-Lee's face was everywhere, on posters, banners, t-shirts, held high by people who refused to let her name be forgotten. Now the streets came alive with the chanting of voices united in one cry. We want Donna-Lee. We want justice. But this wasn't just about one missing woman anymore. This was about every woman who had been silenced, ignored, or left behind by a system that too often failed them. This was about holding those in power accountable, especially when the accused was one of their own. And that was the real fuel behind the fire. Because Noel Maitland wasn't just any suspect. He was a police officer, someone who was expected to uphold the law, someone who was expected to protect others. And more importantly, someone who was supposed to secure and protect someone he claimed to love. And if any ordinary citizen had been the suspect, would this case have moved faster? Would Donna-Lee's family have gotten justice sooner? The question lit a fire in the movement. More protest, more headlines, more pressure. Until finally, something happened. On July 27, 2022, after weeks of mounting public outcry, police made a decision they could no longer delay. they arrested Constable Noel Maitland. He surrendered himself at the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Division, CTOC, in the presence of his lawyer. For Donna-Lee's supporters, this was a victory, but a very small one, because there was still one major problem. Where was Donna-Lee's body? Without a body, could the prosecution prove murder? Could justice still be served? Maitland had been arrested, but the fight for justice was not even close to being over.
No, I believe that at a point in time, the mother, Donna-Lee's mother, mentioned that she saw Noel at the courthouse chatting it up with other police officers in high spirits, as if he was innocent, with no remorse at all while Donna-Lee's body remained unfound.
Yeah, I can imagine how distasteful that must have been for her. Like,
Yeah.
you're accused of, killing somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and you appear to be in high spirits, as
It's
though,
disgusting. It's disgusting.
yeah. No, Noel Maitland's arrest was a turning point. But arresting a suspect, that's one thing. Convicting them, that's a whole different battle. With nobody, prosecutors had to build their case another way, using signs, surveillance, and testimony. This case would have to be airtight. Of course, investigators spent weeks reconstructing what happened inside that New Kingston apartment belonging to Noel Maitland. And here's what they had: DNA evidence, bloodstains on the curtains, sneakers, and a missing couch, all matched Donna-Lee's DNA. Then there was the CCTV footage and cover-up attempts. Cameras showed Donna-Lee entering the Chelsea Manor complex on July 11th, but there was no footage of her ever leaving that apartment belonging to Noel Maitland. And hear this: Maitland pressured his landlord to delete security footage, claiming it showed him smoking a spliff, which could affect his police career. But the landlord refused. The landlord picked up what was happening and said, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And I believe that's when the landlord decided that, listen, I have to share this with the police. Now, of course, you spoke about like potential accomplices, right? The role of Cathian Smith. You see, early in the investigation, police questioned Maitland's child's mother, District Constable Cathian Smith. Reports surfaced that a policewoman was seen helping to load a black garbage bag onto a truck, leading to speculation about Smith's involvement. Smith refused to answer questions without her lawyer present. Forensic and cyber data eventually cleared her, proving she was at work when the crime was committed. But despite being ruled out, many still questioned whether she knew more than she admitted. And then, of course, there's the cell phone data. Forensic cell site analysis confirmed that Donna-Lee's phone was last active in Maitland's apartment on July 12. The same analysis placed Maitland's phone in the same location at the exact same time. After 4 p.m., Donna-Lee's phone went silent. It was never used again. And then, of course, there's the witness testimony. Truck driver admitted he was paid by Maitland to move the bloodstained couch out of the apartment. A car wash worker described the unusual amount of blood, so much that she believed someone had bled out or been killed. This wasn't just circumstantial evidence anymore. This was a trial of blood, digital footprints, and desperate cover-ups, all pointing to one conclusion: Donna-Lee Donaldson was murdered, and the last person to see her alive was Noel Maitland.
So, with all the evidence found, something that was mind-boggling in this case was the discovery that Donna-Lee's credit card was being used a year after her disappearance.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me because, a year after she disappeared.
Yeah.
No, it was initially, alleged that Noel was the one that used her card at a hotel in Portland.
Yeah.
Now, afterwards, it was confirmed by his lawyer that, it was not Noel using the card. Now, this just raises the question of, who was using the card, and what does this have to do with Donna-Lee's case on a whole?
I kind of find that strange. Was it that the card was lost, or it fell out at some point?
Yeah,
Somebody
maybe
and somebody found it, and then I'm wondering, wouldn't the bank deactivate that card? I
Exactly.
mean, after a year,
Yeah.
was that even true? We don't know that. That's just like speculation. I've not seen any official report on that, like any reputable source that confirmed that indeed it was used.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was used. We don't know. But even with all this evidence, though, Maitland had one last card to play: his defense team. This team was led by Christopher Towson, a well respected attorney. You see, Maitland's attorneys insisted he was innocent. Their strategy: question everything. Because that's what defense attorneys do. They question everything. They want to discredit the evidence and to even discredit the investigators. They argued the blood on the couch could have been from something else, perhaps red dye. There was no eyewitness who could place Maitland at the scene of a crime. So, with no body, how could they prove Donna-Lee was actually dead? But the judge wasn't buying it. During Maitland's bail hearing, prosecutors argued that he posed a flight risk as a police officer. He knew how to evade authorities. He could interfere with the investigation, especially given that he had already pressured a neighbor or his landlord to delete critical evidence. He could harm potential witnesses or obstruct justice. All of these are reality. Like, all of these things are literal reality. We have seen it over and over, and he seemed to have been a person of influence, especially because he was actually posing as a producer. No disrespect. I've never heard of anything he produced, but he was touting himself as a big time producer.
Yeah.
Right? So I can imagine he has connection, right? So when the judge delivered the ruling, it was final. Bail denied. Maitland would remain behind bars until trial. You see, the case against Maitland moved forward, but justice wasn't coming quickly. After months of legal delays, a trial readiness hearing was scheduled for January 24, 2025, which already happened. Now, as you know, we are in March 2025. So this hearing ensured all witnesses, statements, and evidence were in place before the official trial date. Then it was confirmed. Noel Maitland's trial was officially set for April 7th, 2025, which is literally a month from now.
Yeah.
So we will be following this case and hope to update our Watson's World family on every little thing, Now, unlike other high-profile cases, this wouldn't be a judge-alone trial. Instead, it would take place over 8 weeks with a 7-member jury. The question now wasn't if Maitland would face trial, but what would be revealed when it began. I'm sure there are many things that we are not privy to because this is an ongoing case. So as the case progresses, when the trials start, we will probably learn a lot of things about this case,
Yeah.
new evidence, and perhaps answers to questions that we have been asking. So, of course, A good question is, would the truth about Donna-Lee's disappearance finally be uncovered? Or would Maitland find a way to escape justice? With Noel Maitland behind bars and the case building against him, one question still remains unanswered. Where's Donna-Lee? Where's her body? Despite all the evidence, all the witnesses, all of the forensic discoveries, her body had never been found. And that meant one thing: her family had no closure. Investigators searched tirelessly, following every lead, every rumor, every possible location. The Riverton City dump, a sprawling landfill where authorities feared Donna-Lee's body may have been discarded. Secluded areas outside Kingston, places where a body could be hidden without a trace. Abandoned buildings, empty lots, bodies of water, but no matter where they looked, they found nothing. One question loomed over the entire case: did Noel Maitland act alone? It's hard to imagine that one man by himself could dispose of a body so completely without anyone seeing a thing, and yet no accomplices have ever been charged. Or did they simply disappear into the shadows? Surveillance footage don't lie. It showed Donna-Lee entering the apartment, but never leaving. So if Maitland disposed of her body, the big question is, how did he get it out? Did the footage show him leaving with anything suspicious, like a large concealed object? The answer? We don't know. What we do know is that Maitland pressured his landlord to delete surveillance footage. But why? Was it really because he was caught smoking a spliff? Or did the cameras capture something far more incriminating? And then there was his cell phone. Investigators were able to track Donna-Lee's phone. It lost ping inside Maitland's apartment on July 12th. But what about his phone? Was he smart enough to turn it off during the disposal? Did he leave it at home while he moved her body? Or did he have help using someone else's phone to communicate? These are the missing pieces in a case that already feels incomplete. Without surveillance footage of Maitland leaving with a body, without any accomplices charged, and without a body found, what really happened to Donna-Lee?
Now, beyond the crime itself, right, this case forces us to ask difficult societal questions. How do we advocate for the safety of women? Rather than focusing on protecting women from men, how do we build a culture where women do not need to be protected in the first place?
Yeah.
How do we ensure police departments investigate their own with true impartiality? If a woman is in a dangerous relationship, what policies or laws could better protect her before it's too late? Now, I know that I mentioned this in the last video,
Yeah.
in the Melissa Silver
Right.
case,
Uh-huh.
but I just want to reiterate, if you are in a abusive relationship, I urge you to get out. Contact the domestic abuse helpline. The number is 876-553-0372. 876-553-0372. I urge you, to get out, get the help you need.
Yeah, and we will continue to advocate for women. We'll continue to put these information out there,
Yeah.
right? This is important. This is not feminism. Right?
Yeah.
This is not feminism. Like what, you were being attacked about, defending women right, when we did.
Yeah. I find it extremely
Melissa
confusing.
Silvera's case, right?
Yeah, I find it extremely
I know.
confusing because we're not trying to create a gender war here.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Now, for Donna-Lee's mother, Sophia Lugg, the pain was unbearable. she had been robbed of not just her daughter, but the ability to lay her to rest. She couldn't visit her grave. She couldn't say goodbye. Her only hope was justice. But can justice truly be served? If the truth is still missing, if Maitland had help, will those in the shadows ever be caught? Or will they get away with murder? The case of Donna-Lee Donaldson is one of heartbreak, deception, and unanswered questions. A young woman full of life, ambition, and dreams vanished in a way that no one should ever have to experience. Her blood was found. Her last moments were traced. Her family's worst fears were realized, and yet her body remains missing. Her mother, Sophia Loke, still wakes up every day not knowing where her daughter truly is. Her family still doesn't have a grave to visit. And while Noel Maitland remains behind bars, justice still feels unfinished. Because until Donna-Lee is found, there will always be a void, a silence that lingers in the hearts of her loved ones and in the streets where her name was once chanted for justice. The fight is not over, so we must keep saying her name, Donna-Lee Donaldson, because she deserves to be found. If you have any information on where we could find her body, please contact authorities. Let us bring closure to a family that has suffered for far too long. My beautiful people, thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, right, Kavina? Please go ahead and subscribe. Click on that little notification bell so that you'll be alerted every time we upload a new video. And share.
Yeah.
Tell people about the channel.
Thank you for having me.
We welcome your feedback. We like the comments. We read them all the time. And I like to respond to the comments. Right? This is a family. And we love you guys. Right? So, yeah. Until next time, stay safe. And remember, justice never sleeps. All right?
Bye.